Oh, Kamala Harris. This woman is, when she's not stealing ideas from President Trump, she's trying to distance herself from Biden and his horrible policies throughout these last 3.5 years. And she's doing just that now. Kamala Harris revealing, well, big news, her new plans for only a 28% capital gains tax to soften the blow on Joe Biden's nearly 40% pitch on all of that. No surprise there, of course. Even President Trump saying he's going to mail her a MAGA hat because she keeps stealing his ideas, of course. But you have to back away from those horrific policies that Joe Biden has implemented over the last few years. Obviously, Kamala Harris has had her hands on that. But do most Americans feel that way? Well, take a look at this new Rasmussen Reports poll it just recently dropped. In it, they asked Americans, do they blame her for the bad Biden policies? 32% of likely US voters say Harris deserves a lot of blame for the failures of Biden's policies, while only 23% see her as a deserving somewhat of the blame. 25% think Harris doesn't deserve much of the blame for Biden's failures, while 15% believe she deserves none at all. I mean, that number probably should be a little bit higher, but let's ask Mr. Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen Reports about all of this data. Mark, thanks for jumping on. I think it's interesting that the majority of Americans think she is to blame. I thought this probably would have been a little bit higher, but what are you making of all this data?
I think this is the internal core of the issue in this race that she's not going to be able to run from. Joe Biden was up in our polls in 2020. He won the national popular vote by a massive margin, and he continued into his term to literally screw up his presidency. He had a horrible Afghanistan situation. He had crisis after crisis, all kinds of scandals. The inflation that is now choking our economy in a way where the jobs numbers, the government has to lie to cover it up. And we've been pulling on this the whole way. 46% of voters said that Bidenomics was going to hurt him, and less than 20% said it was going to help him. And that was before Kamala Harris became the candidate. She is on a sugar high right now. It's starting to peter out. And between now and Election Day, people are going to look back and remember how bad things were during the Biden administration. Now, this is a great set of questions. It's not just that one. It's absolutely packed. And there's some really interesting crosstab kung fu that you can do to show that she's not going to be able to distance herself from this administration. First, have President Joe Biden's policies been mostly successful or mostly failures? Right off the bat, only 39% say his policies have been mostly successful. A majority, 52%, say just, abject failure. And that's like a 13-point edge for failure there. And then when you look at the people, and this one's crazy to me. So if you ask, does she deserve credit for his successes? Roughly about the same people say some or a lot, it's high 50s, same as the amount of people that say she deserves blame. But when you go out to see how the people who say, in general, have Biden's policies been success or failures, people who say successful, only 29% of them say that Kamala Harris deserves a lot of the credit. But people who say Biden's a failure, 52% of them say that she deserves a lot of the blame. So this is what I call the incompetency signal. People know she's attached to the Joe Biden administration, and they think she deserves credit for blame for his failures, but not credit for his successes. She's just not going to be able to outrun that.
Yeah. And I wonder if you were to ask these individuals, what are some of Joe Biden's successes? They might not have a list these days because I can't imagine there being much at this point. But that's the reason why they pulled them out.
Go away.
What was that, Mark?
He made the orange man go away.
That's
success, right?
Yeah. It's so hard to grasp a single success. They keep doing like the insulin one too, right? That insulin's $35 now. Again, that was something that Trump did in his time in office. And then they paused it, they stopped it, and then they brought it back. And he's still taking credit for that. It's laughable.
That was our number one geopolitical issue. Insulin prices. Like, what about the war in Ukraine? What about the massive inflation that is literally wringing money out of everybody's pockets? No, insulin.
Yeah.
Now I'll tell you, there's another question here, which shows you exactly what's going on in the Democrat voters' minds. How important is it for political leaders to stay consistent in terms of policy positions? And of course, we asked this question because of the flip flop on the border. But what it shows you is just fascinating about the Democrat mindset. 86% of all voters say important, 55% say very important. But you know who says that it's very important less than anybody else? Democrats, only 43%, self identified liberals, 37%, compared to Republicans, 66%. So Republicans are holding their elected leaders to a higher standard of consistency on policy. And I think we can all project why, like going back and looking at the way that establishment Republicans have treated your average MAGA type. But the Democrats, they don't really seem to be requiring consistency the same way that every other voter is.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the part that always baffles me because I just don't understand why the left doesn't care about those issues. It just and their position changes so much. I mean, if you look at how Democrats were or the policies they were supporting just 10 years ago, it's completely shifted over the last 10 years, and the party is unrecognizable at this point. So I guess it kind of makes sense
Yeah.
when you look at it from that angle. But I got a little nervous, Mark. I saw your latest poll today, and I was a little upset. So I'm going to need you to talk me off the edge a bit here. But it looks like, according to your new poll, that Donald Trump is only up by 1% right now over Kamala Harris. And it's hard for me to understand why. So explain this one to me.
I mean, first off, we're the only pollster that shows him up
Yeah.
now in the Real Clear Politics aggregate at all. And again, we're trying to be accurate. We are not trying to carry water for the Democrats. I think that's very important. Even if that was true, and even if I don't have a couple other caveats, that's still phenomenally better than he's done in the last two cycles and 3 to 4 points better than he was doing against Hillary Clinton at this time. Back in 2016 is when we got our conservative pollster moniker because we were the only people that even gave Donald Trump a shot, and they came after us like you wouldn't believe because of that. And it looks like we're kind of in the same position. I think they're trying to do for Kamala Harris what they did for Hillary, which is drag her up to a narrow popular vote margin win. But what it all comes down to, in my opinion, because Trump and Biden is different in a way that 2016 was, is this issue over the recalled vote. And you've probably seen some discussions, your viewers might have heard that before. What it comes down to is normally in our polls, we weight by gender, age, party, and race. And some people weight by other things, maybe education, things like that. And what we started doing a few months ago, because my poll was getting flooded with Trump supporters, listen, Donald Trump and Joe Biden absolutely convinced people that they should vote Trump. Independents went for Biden by a double-digit margin and in our polling in 2020. And now we had polls where he was up like 15 points among independents. He definitely changed minds, but I have to say, like, that many minds. And when I look in my sample, I see, well, 53, 54% of my sample, even after waiting for party, is still Trump supporters. And I say I can't live with myself putting that poll out without adjusting for that. So I take what everybody said they voted for in 2020 and I weight it to Biden 49, Trump 45, which is what the official reported results are. And that's how I get to Trump +1. Now, I'm not sure if that's the correct way to do it, but it's the conservative way to do it. If I ran the same data set and didn't wait for recalled vote, Trump would be up 4 right now. And incidentally, by the way, most pollsters are not waiting for recall vote right now. And that's because they're experiencing something very different than I am, in that all of their data is getting flooded with liberal Biden supporters. And that's the real trick. My data looks a lot different from other people's. I have to wait the Trump support away to get to Trump +1. And there's really a big question mark. I mean, the industry's been changing. People have been going towards new alternative data sources. It's been fragmenting. But also there's the issue of the weakening brand of mainstream pollsters. And I think that's potentially what's driving most of it. I just don't see like a deep red, like Midwest, rural Republican picking up the phone call and telling the New York Times the truth. And so they come out and say, our polls have too many Biden supporters. We are not waiting to adjust for it. And I am, and I still have Trump +1, the best he's ever been doing.
Well, Mark, I feel better about everything now. So thank you for that. It's really important.
We got to wait and see. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's important that we're accurate, right? Because you and I have had this discussion before. A lot of the polls are inaccurate, and like you just detailed, I would say it's probably intentional at this point. And so it's really important that we get the honest shake of things. I know so many people reach out to me, actually, Mark. Number one, this is their favorite segment that we do once a week when we have you on the show. They're big fans of it, but they also tell me that they follow you on YouTube because they trust you, because they know your data is so accurate and you're so thorough. So it's really important that we do just that. So Mark, thank you very, very much. We appreciate it as always. And again, folks, you got to check him out. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. It's YouTube. The page itself is just Rasmussen Reports. Give it a look. Head on over there now. Mark, we appreciate everything that you do for us and come on to the show all the time. People really do. I mean, I had my accountant text me. This is his favorite segment. So that's the good news, Mark. People really, really do love you out there. So thank you.
Number nerds unite, right?
It's a thing. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks again.
I have no plans to stop talking about this incredible sale that's going on right now until they actually end it at this point. But you guys, when you head on over right now to mypillow.com, you got to take a look around. There are plenty of incredible offers going on. And well, you're not going to want to miss out on this. Mike Lindell has $25 specials on a lot of his pillows, bed sheets, towels, so many of his items, even the dog bed, slippers, sandals. They're all $25 right now. Now, to secure these low prices, you've got to use that promo code BRE. That's promo code BRE. That's how you lock in these savings. So head on over right now to mypillow.com, take a look around, and if you're looking to save, which I always recommend you do because Biden economics is rough, use that promo code BRE to secure and lock down these savings.